Good morning, everybody. I'm honored to be here. This is my second annual meeting, and I can't believe it's been 12 months since the last one and 18 months since I started as the CEO of GPhA. I want to join Joni Morrow and welcome you to the 2013 annual meeting, and thank you so much for coming. I do have to salute Tony. One could not have a better board chair, nor can I have a better vice chair in Don DeGoyer and Craig Wheeler as our secretary-treasurer. Our officers, our board, our executive committee give the staff, give the association so much leadership, support, resources, and they work really hard. Quarterly meetings, and our executive committee meets every 2 weeks. Lots of checks and balances. I have to salute the extraordinary staff of GPhA, and I'm going to single out a few people during the course of my 25 minutes or so, but I have to start with the individuals who put together this annual meeting. This is phenomenal. We've already broken 2 records. We're just about at 700 attendees, about 80 more than last year, and by far more than any of the other 10 years. We've raised $1.6 million. Jennifer, I think, emailed me at 8:44 this morning, so we just topped 1.6 million. Great speakers, panels of experts, the popular CEOs Unplugged, featured speakers like the person who will follow me, former Senator John Kyle of Arizona. For the 4th year in a row, Margaret Hamburg, the FDA commissioner. This is such a wonderful opportunity, of course, to be what I consider the industry event of the year. We get a chance to renew friendships, make new friendships, impart information. But I think what I love most is the camaraderie that exists in this industry, the collective vision that exists in the industry, and the pride. People love what they do and what their accomplishments are. So on behalf of everyone, I'm sure, in this room, on behalf of the board, I do want to acknowledge Bob Billings and Jennifer Wynn, Kara Ajee, Ashley Kuntz, Katie Dysert, and many others. Let's give them a wonderful round of applause. Thank you so much. As I begin, I hope you get a copy of what the staff put together, led by Bob Billings, our annual report. I just want to read a paragraph out of here for you because it's the context of my presentation. Our mission: to execute a winning strategy that optimizes the benefits of generic and biosimilar medicines, to create and maintain a regulatory and legislative environment that facilitates the robust growth of our member companies, to champion the message that generic drugs are a fundamental solution to the sustainability of affordable health care. When I talk to you, I want you to listen to what I say in the context of that mission statement. This is, I believe, value added to every member of our association. Becoming part of GPhA is really a return of investment that I think is quite impressive. And we work together as an association. We work together to promote and protect the generic industry and to serve the people of this country and around the world. So I want you all listen carefully, and I think at the end you'll agree with me. We couldn't come together, of course, at a more exciting moment. 2 Supreme Court decisions going to be handed down this year, the hearings in the next 5 or 6 weeks on patent settlements, on labeling issues. We've got the President of Congress about to lock horns again with respect to the fiscal and budgetary challenges that threaten our country right now. And GPhA and the generic industry are going to be an important part of that debate. We've got the explosive growth and the creative evolution that characterizes our industry. We'll talk about that. And I've got something here I didn't have a week or 2 ago in the first draft. We've got some extraordinary situations right now in the States. And Tony referred to it, and I've been told there's someone from a company that I've worked with over the past 20, 30 years, here today from Amgen. Well, I want to tell the person from Amgen, and I want to tell Genentech, that we're very disappointed that they've launched preemptive strikes in about 24 states that will make it more difficult for future access to biosimilars by erecting hurdles that make it more difficult for consumers and patients to have access to biosimilar medicines. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Much more to come. But first, I want to talk to you about us as an institution, what 2012 has been like. I'm very, very happy to say, from a financial point of view, and what keeps a CEO and staff up more than anything else is making sure you meet the payroll and making sure that you can have the money to execute what the board has directed you to do and to be successful. We went into 2012 with a budget of $9.5 million. I'm very pleased, and I congratulate our staff and our board. We came in December 31st, $11.8 million, 23% higher than any previous year, a new record for GPhA. This year, our budget is $12.5 million, and I believe we're going to exceed that too. Our personnel, I think we've got one of the best staffs in the country of any association, of any entity that I've ever been part of. We had about 8 or 9 staffers just 3 years ago. We had 17 in 2012, and we'll have 23 full-time employees in 2013. The core staff, the veterans who've been here a while, like Bob Billings, Jason Money, Rochelle Koski, Cookie Cottrell, Jennifer, Byron, Brenda Clark, and others. These are the people that have passed on the institutional knowledge and are an integral part of the staff. But we did a lot of rebuilding, restructuring, strengthening of GPhA during 2012. The first person, February 2012, David Goff, our Senior Vice President for Science and Regulatory Affairs, a superstar. Someone who came from the industry, who was on our board right up to the time he became our Senior Vice President. Science and Regulatory Affairs we're strengthening. We're about to hire a new Vice President for Science and other staffers. And Gordon Johnston, a legendary character who was with the FDA for many years and with GPhA for 8 years, is one of our consultants, working very closely with David. Christine Simmons rejoined the family, had been with GPhA from 2002 to 2006, came back this year just a few months ago. Kendra Janeski came in to become part of our fabulous duo with Rochelle Koski. Rochelle handles the money, and Kendra handles the people, human resources and administration. Claire Sheehan, our most recent person, agreed to come on at the end of the year, our first Vice President for Communications. We will be emphasizing, telling our story, the story of the generic industry, what we've accomplished. We have to have someone who can be there in a very proactive way. And proactivity, aggressiveness, nimbleness, those are the adjectives the board wants applied to the staff of the GPhA. As important as the staff is, the consultants, spectacular. At the state level, we've gone from Brenda Clark and 7 state consultants to Brenda Clark, John Soshak, and about 10 consultants, probably more coming on board in just a little while at the state level. If you look at the federal level, anyone would be willing to give any amount of money to have the consultant staff that we've put together. They are people that are known throughout town by the Democrats, by the Republicans, executive branch, legislative branch. Chris Jennings, Diane Major, Bob Van Hooven, Gordon Johnston I mentioned, Fabiana Jorge, and Dorothy Cullen, 2 spectacular people on international issues. Greg Howard, a veteran of many, many battles, and Victor Todd and Megan Shea. Now, I've mentioned staff, I've mentioned consultants. I want to mention you all, our member organizations. You are what makes GPhA possible. Your engagement, we've got 15 workforces, task forces, committees. You make us. And the stronger you are, the stronger we are. The stronger we are, the stronger the companies are. We can't do it without you. We need you involved at every level at all the time. Our new website, by the way, just went live this week. I hope you'll visit it. It's just extraordinary. Kendra and Bob and Christine and others worked on it. We're expanding. We actually got into a situation where every Tuesday morning when 26 Washington reps come into our conference room, I'm expecting the fire marshal to be the 27th. We don't have enough room, standing room only. We're moving across the hall, increasing our space by about 30% or so. This is a big thing for us. It's a 10-year lease. We're very excited, and we're going to be welcoming you all to our headquarters in the near future. The association also had what I think, and if you had your annual report and you listened to Tony, maybe the most successful programmatic year since the enactment of Hatch-Waxman in 1984. Yes, it was that good. We had, from the board, from the CEO Summit, a set of issues, a set of targets that we were supposed to accomplish. We were very fortunate. We were very good. We stayed together as an association. We had great strategic partners. Tony mentioned a couple, and I'd like to mention a couple of those and a couple of more, not repeating so much what he said, but the perspective that I want to share. The Generic Drug User Fees Act was historic, the most important legislation since Hatch-Waxman nearly 30 years ago. Tony mentioned about expedited review, really important. This is hard to believe, but the average review time for ANDAs, 32.5 months. 3,000 ANDAs waiting to be reviewed and approved. That cannot stand. And thanks to GPhA, we have the goal in 5 years of going from 32.5 months to 10 months, a savings of almost 2 years. The international parity is very important. You see stories every day. We want to make sure that the standards, the quality, FDA-type quality, the generic industry type quality is worldwide, not just in the United States, inspections around the world. In that GPhA fight, I have to tell you, it was one of the best examples of bipartisan leadership. Chairman Tom Harkin, Ranking Member Mike Enzi, and on the House side, Chairman Fred Upton, and Henry Waxman, the Ranking Democrat. They did a fabulous job. That bill came from the negotiations between GPhA and FDA to the LMB, to the Hill, and they had it out of the Senate in about 6.5 months, in the House of Representatives. There were only 3 laws in the entire last Congress that came out of Congress with strong bipartisan support. GPhA was one of them. It was a great example of multi-sector collaboration. It was the FDA, GPhA, Republicans, Democrats, legislative branch, executive branch. Everyone worked together and did the job. And we blocked efforts to weaken Hatch-Waxman, kept them off the Senate and House floor. Were able to defeat the biggest threat, Bingham and Vitter, by a vote of 67 to 28. John Kyle, our featured speaker today, went to the Senate floor and gave a tremendous speech that helped defeat that bill. 67 to 28 is a resounding victory, to say the least. GPhA was an example of how Washington should work. It was private sector leadership collaborating with public sector leadership in what has become such a polarized, partisan, sometimes dysfunctional, oftentimes lately dysfunctional Washington governmental scene. This GPhA was how it should be done. Drug shortages, the first issue to be on my plate when I started in September of 2011. And GPhA, again, with collaboration with the FDA, many other agencies, the entire supply chain, our allies, House, Senate, again, there were triumphs. Number one, of course, GPhA was a very important foundation for this. And then something called the Accelerated Recovery Initiative, what Tony referred to. And that was basically doing 2 things, setting up an independent third party, and we've got so many of the people who worked out that in the audience today. I think John Kafer and Tom Moore, David Koff, I think maybe Scott Meacham and others, who came up with this independent third party, which became IMS Health, probably the best known analytics firm in the world, operating in 107 countries around the world. They will take in real time supply data from the manufacturers, in this case the sterile injectables, and they will analyze that data and to figure out where the shortages are. Very importantly, where could they be in the future? They'll take all of that data in real time, they'll do computer modeling, and then they'll pass that information on to the FDA. The FDA will deal directly with the companies. This will mitigate any current shortage and avert, hopefully, future shortages. It is in the final stages of the pilot project. IMS, GPhA, and FDA, as we speak, are talking about the criteria, how to measure it, and we're ready to go. Again, another example of private-public sector collaboration. The FTC approved it, by the way, with respect to a preliminary opinion. We met with them 5 or 6 times. We must have met with the FDA dozens of times, whether it was Commissioner Hamburg, Janet Woodcock, Sandra Quater. Our visibility, our impact, whether in the executive branch or the hundreds of meetings that Jim Fenton and David Goff and Jason Money and Mark Hendrickson and Chris Davis had, we were proactive, we were visible, we had an impact along with dozens of our organizations, both companies and our associate members during the year. There is one provision in Title 10 that I like to mention. I'm not going to read it, it's only a page, but it's Section 506D of the drug shortages part of GPhA. Why do I raise this? Why do I take out a technical piece of legislation? This is a template for the FDA. This is a template for just about any government agency I can think of. When we testified, I said there were 2 things we asked for: the Accelerated Recovery Initiative and the independent third party. We also asked for a SWAT team. So did FDA. I think many of you have had the experience, I know all of you have had the experience, of the silos at the FDA, like in many other government agencies. People don't talk to one another. They don't communicate effectively. They don't coordinate with us or among themselves. So Congress said, you got 1 year, and you've got to come back on July 9th, and you've got to have a strategic plan. And in that strategic plan, you have to have intra-agency communication, interagency communication, communication with the industry and the outside experts. And then you got to put it all together. And at the end, and this is maybe one of the most important things that happened with respect to drug shortages, has not been reported to my knowledge anywhere. But the Secretary and the Commissioner have the discretion, the statutory authority, to make sure that everyone is talking at FDA, and compliance and enforcement and all the others who have anything to do with warning letters or enforcement actions, they have to check with the drug shortages department. They have to see what kind of impact any kind of enforcement action could have on the lives of people. Is it going to cause drug shortages in critical areas? Is it going to cause a problem? The Secretary and the Commissioner can alter the action. They can work out something to make sure more damage would not be done, so that people who are getting these cancer treatments or that have anesthesia issues with drug shortage, all the other things that we've seen over the last couple years. Again, another arrow in our quiver. But what I like most, intra-agency coordination, interagency coordination, left hand knowing what the right hand is doing and vice versa, communication with this industry, communication with all stakeholders. Coordination, collaboration, communication, that's what we need. There are going to be times when we're going to have to contest things, we're going to have to confront, but let's try to coordinate. We did very well with the biosimilar pathway, long way to go. We gave testimony on April 23rd, we testified May 11th, May 25th. On June 6th, 24 of our allies in the insurance industry, in the consumer industry, in the unions, large employers, also submitted testimony to the FDA. Do you know there were 300 anti-generic initiatives in the states in 2012? None of them became law. Brenna Clark and the state affairs and the governmental affairs generally, 300 offered, none of them became law. Trans-Pacific Partnership, international issues, we're off to a very good start with making sure that when we do the treaties with the Pacific Rim nations, and I think there'll be other nations involved, and there are other treaties that are being addressed. We have to make sure that affordable medicine is right at the heart of the debate. In fact, we at GPhA, you in the audience, every day we wake up and we have to play a three-dimensional chess game. We have to look at Washington, we got to look at the FDA, we got to look at Congress and the executive branch. We have to look at the states, as we've done so well and are doing now. But we also have to think internationally. These treaties could be another kind of preemptive strike. If they start, and I'm talking about sometimes our allies, sometimes our friendly competitors, whether it's pharma or bio, if they try to win what they are trying to do in the Trans-Pacific Partnership and other treaties, these will be preemptive strikes. These will be making international law the current text of the treaty, which I hope is being altered. They're trying to make sure they can win on their issues, whether it's biosimilars or other generic medicines. We can't let these preemptive efforts survive. I'd like to tell you that in Melbourne last April, 8 of the 9 countries said, US trade reps, we're not buying this language. There are problems here. The Melbourne Rebellion is what it's known in our office, where countries and nonprofits stood up and said, no, we're not going to do it this way. We haven't won anything yet, but we're still in the game. The ball is still in the play, and it's a top priority for us. 2013, I thought Tony gave a great summary, and I think he referred to this. What was so important about 2013 coming up is what we did in 2012, because the board and the executive committee put together, made us put it together. They modified it and they accepted it, a strategic action plan, a strategic plan about 30 pages long. This is the first time we've done an extensive document like this. We're very proud of it, and I think it's going to guide us this year and in the future. On top of doing the strategic plan, we have comprehensive action plans, the tactics, how you get it done, the media efforts, the legislative efforts, or the FDA and regulatory efforts, how we work at the grassroots, at the state level, as well as at the national level. It's impressive, and I'm very confident about it. I do want to mention patent settlements. That's coming up fast. In the court, could be coming up in the Congress. I'm confident that we can beat back efforts to ban patent settlements. These patent settlements save tens of billions of dollars to the healthcare system in the United States. Last year, 2011, 2 years ago, of the 22 generics that went to market, 17 of them were patent settlements. 17 of them out of 22. Again, tens of billions of dollars. They're pro-consumer, they're pro-competition, they save money. We've got 4 major reports coming out. If members of the press are here, and all of our members, 4 major reports addressing the economics, the methodology, the legal issues, the public policy issues, the constitutional issues. We're looking forward to it. I mentioned Amgen and Genentech. For the most part, collaboration is our mantra. We want to work. We want a successful pharma. We want a successful bio. They should be rewarded for their R&D. They should have those patents, but they should not try to evergreen patents. They should make sure the patents are good. And for sure, once the patents expire, they should not be doing what they're doing in too many states right now with these efforts for record keeping and notification, burdensome red tape. That's what they're doing in one state after another, or trying to do. But we've pushed back. I remember learning with Senator Brooke, no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, but permanent interest. And if Amgen and Genentech, those 2 Goliaths in the biotech industry, are trying to prevent consumers and patients from having access to future biosimilars, then we're going to stand up to them. We're going to contest them. We're going to frame the debate. We're going to define the issues. We're going to go to newspaper editorial boards. We're going to go to you. We're going to go to legislatures in each one of these states. I'm confident about our future. We are on a trajectory that we're very, very happy about. And there are many reasons for it. I'm not naive. I know there are challenges. I know what's happened in my first 18 months with respect to mergers and acquisitions, with respect to hybridization. There's been so much change just in my first year and a half. But I know the industry leaders, and I know how creative, innovative, sophisticated, savvy, and nimble they are. They are prepared, they are diversified, they're not worried about any cliff with respect to certain generic medicines. They've been preparing, and they've also got some great tailwinds. They have some excellent tailwinds because we've got globalization, and so many of the companies in the last 5 years have become multinationals. We've got biosimilars. This is the future. Biologics cost 22 times more than the average medicine costs. And biosimilars are in 24 countries already in the European Union. Wait till Americans find out they don't have biosimilars and hundreds of millions of others do. But we've got a pathway. I'm confident the FDA is going to come through. If we can get a hold of biosimilars, it will save incalculable amounts of money in the next 10, 20 years. There's a patent cliff with biologics. There's 20 billion right now on the market biologics that have expired with their patents. There'll be another 40 billion in the next 2 years with patents expiring. $100 billion market by the end of the decade. That's a lot. Demographics, the silver tsunami. I'm a baby boomer. There are about 40 million of us right now. In about 17 years, there'll be 70 million. Another 20 years, 90 million. That's quite a market, particularly for the Peter Pan types like me who want to avoid chronic illnesses, acute illnesses. We will be using generics. It's a vast market, not just for biosimilars, for generic medicines of all kinds. Whether you approved or dislike the Affordable Care Act, 34 million new people are getting insurance over the next few years. Up to 13, 14, 15 million will be getting Medicaid assistance. An enormous market for the generic industry. I'm bullish, obviously. I think this industry has been an American success story. Since 1984, you heard the statistics, savings of 1.1 trillion that one decade, the last decade, 193 billion in 2011. 1 billion every other day. Phenomenal savings, and we're going up 20% every year. But just think of the market, 80% of the prescriptions, generics, 27% of the cost. Generics are the backbone of the pharmaceutical industry. This is a story few have ever matched in the last century or two. We should be proud. We have a right to be proud. The economic conditions, $2.6 trillion in healthcare, 800 billion of which, according to the Institute of Medicine, public and private studies, are wasted inefficient. We're here. We can be part of the solution with respect to the economic issues. We're the savings. We're the offsets. You're going to hear from us. We're going to be introducing in the next week or two a package of legislative initiatives with generic and biosimilar utilization in Medicare and Medicaid to save tens of billions of dollars for the federal government. The political circumstances, we're non-ideological. We're neither Republican nor Democrat. We're neither conservative nor liberal. We can appeal to Tea Party conservatives and consumer liberals. We will be in this debate. We are the low-hanging fruit. We can work with everyone. They're desperately, whether it's the White House, Congress, everyone is desperately seeking to find those savings. We are the savings. We can be part of this solution that addresses the healthcare system sustainability crisis in the national economy. I can't tell you how proud I am to be the CEO. I can't tell you how proud I am of this industry. We get up every day, and the better we do, the better the country does. Families, large and small businesses, state, local, and federal governments, the world. How many people, how many industries can we get up in the morning and say, we are going to make our product, and the more we sell, the more generics and biosimilars that will be used, we will improve quality of lives, we will save lives, and we will save money. I'm profoundly grateful to have the honor of being your CEO. Let's work together as we have, and let's attack the future with confidence and with pride. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's my great honor and privilege, and some of you know I'm a son of the Senate, to be able to introduce one of the icons of the Senate over the last 20 years, Congress over the last 26 years, Jon Kyl. He served 18 in the Senate, 8 in the House, served on the Judiciary Committee, where he's helped write reforms to the patent law, the landmark Crime Victims' Rights Act, Patriot Act revisions, and so many others. Member of the Finance Committee, chief advocate of pro-growth tax policies, including low tax rates on income, capital gains, dividends, and estates. He is the real thing. When I was with Senator Brooke and Senator Durenberger in the 70s and early 80s, I heard a phrase often, and they talked about the people who were the workhorses versus those who were the show horses. And the workhorses did the job. They took it seriously. They worked hard in their states and in Washington, D.C. And the phrase they used to differentiate the two, the whales versus the minnows. Jon Kyl is in the Moby Dick category. He is phenomenal. He had a profound, and it's not just Ralph Neas or GPhA. Listen to what Time magazine had to say, one of the world's 100 most influential people in 2010. Capitol Hill's newspaper, The Hill, identified him as one of the 25 hardest working lawmakers. I would put that top 5 at least. The Wall Street Journal wrote 2 years ago, Senator Kyl has made his mark the old-fashioned way by knowing what he's talking about. The New York Times, in a February 2012 piece, called Senator Kyl the emissary of the Republican leadership, a gatekeeper of conservatism, and a bridge between the party's most ardent conservatives and more pragmatic centrists. Weekly Standard's Fred Barnes, my good friend, called Senator Kyl the indispensable man, noting that he knows more about more issues than anyone else in Congress, ranging from missile defense to the estate tax. He also knows how to work with Democrats. He can play the partisan role. He is a conservative Republican, outstanding in his accomplishments. But I remember many times reaching across the aisle in the Judiciary Committee with Senator Dianne Feinstein from California. Time and again on national security issues, on many issues, they work together. That's how it should be done. Of course you're fighting one another, of course you're competitors, but in the end you get the job done. So I would like to welcome to the stage, it really is a distinct honor and privilege, the Honorable Jon Kyl.
Thank you, sir.
That's good. You're welcome.